Now there he is live. Alberto Salazar, world best 208.13 in New York. Seko right next to him. So you've got two of, well, I don't want to say big three, but let's put it this way, two of the three top contenders. Toshiko Seko, 28 years old, from Tokyo. First time that he and DeCastella have gotten together. Most people who follow the marathon quite closely, as you look at Rob DeCastella, think that there is the man to beat.
Well, I'm impressed. First off, I'm impressed at Seko's concentration, which everybody has talked about. If Alberto walked up to me and I saw that crazy shirt for the first time, I would certainly have to acknowledge it, and Seko totally ignored it. But both DeCastella and Alberto have thought very much about the heat, and I think the fact that they've both unveiled new wild-looking T-shirts. Alberto's, obviously he just took the U.S. uniform and modified it a little bit, show that they're concerned for the heat, and they're well-thought-out plans. Seko, on the other hand, just wearing a normal singlet without too many holes cut into it.
A couple of laps of the track. Rodolfo Gomez of Mexico in your picture, 23 years old. He's probably Mexico's top distance runner, and it's been a great Olympics for Mexico on the track at the Coliseum in walking races. They have won the gold in both the 20K and 50K walks, and hope to repeat in the marathon. Marty, what do you think the chances are of something happening as took place in 1976 when some basically unknown runner comes out of the pack and wins it all?
I think they're very good. As you go back into marathon history, this race is just filled with surprises such as that, and that's why I said one of the three things on everyone's mind is how the Africans are going to do here today, because the heat is going to be a factor. The Africans should run well in the heat, and in any conditions, the Africans have great runners, but all marathon courses are different. You cannot compare times from one to the other. In fact, the world governing body doesn't officially have a world record for the marathon. It's called the world best, and Alberto Salazar does have that set in New York. So if someone runs a 2:12 marathon in Africa and someone else runs a 2:11 in Sweden, you really have no idea how they're going to do against each other, and this is really the first time in 8 years that the world's best marathoners have gotten together, and more than that, it's the first time since the running boom has hit the world, and so runners today have much more incentive, have been working much harder, and I think as we've seen on the track, you're seeing a bit of a quantum leap in performances because of what's been happening in this sport over the last 8 or 9 years.
Here we go. 26 miles, 385 yards. They get started right on time at 5 o'clock, and sometime around 10 past 7, they will enter the Coliseum. A couple of laps coming up on the track at Santa Monica College as that pack, and there are about 113 runners. I say about, there were that many eligible to start today. 113 eligible starters in the Olympic Marathon, the final Olympic event in the 1984 Games.
Well, I see right away that one of the So brothers from Japan has gotten up into the lead. It was expected that he might want to be up by the front early. There's certainly no hurry to get up in the front in this race. The Africans, there are a number of runners that the chores of setting the early pace may fall to. Ikanga may set the pace. I don't see him up there yet. Certainly not DeCastella or Seko, or even Salazar will go out in the beginning. And it is a race where unknowns can lead for the first 5 or 10 miles because every country is allowed entry into the marathon. There is no qualifying standard, and the marathon is such a long race that even a very poor man who might be the 200th best runner in the world, if he so desires, could go out and lead the first 5 miles because that's only a small portion of the marathon. So you get people up in the front who are unexperienced or for other reasons like to get on television back home that go up there and lead. And that's a little bit of a scary thing because you never know if that guy is for real.
So there they are circling the track at Santa Monica College, not that far from the ocean. They'll be going out of the stadium very shortly and up 17th Street, and then they'll make a right turn onto appropriately named Olympic Boulevard, one of the main thoroughfares in Los Angeles. A basically west to east route. They will travel along Olympic before making a left turn on 26th Street. And Ikonga is right up there in the front in the green shirt.
He is leading with Shahanga in third right now. So the two men, 8:27 is Shahanga, and they have already gotten up to the front. We saw Shahanga last fall lead the New York Marathon for about 15 miles at a very, very fast pace, and he seems to be ready to do that again. Now, Shahanga has run very well over the last year, but he's also run very often, so he's not given too much of a chance to be there at the end because he has over-raced. I alluded in the opening to the fact that there are a lot of temptations to over-race for the world's top marathoners because of the money and the prize money now involved in this sport, and some of them. Ikonga has also run 18 marathons. Let me stop there. He's run 8 marathons in the last 18 months, so even Ikonga is suspected of this over-racing syndrome. On the other hand, Seko has only run 5 in the last 4 years. DeCastella has not run one since last August. The year before that, he won the Commonwealth Games. That was his only race. So they have overcome this temptation to race too often.
They're leaving the stadium. The early leader is Vincent Ruguga from Uganda as they go out onto the streets of Santa Monica. We'll be right back. Is this sheet accurate? There was a guy up there who wasn't even on here.
No, I think it was 6:12.
Was it? It was 6:12?
I think you had
It did look like 8:12. Okay.
Yeah, no, there can't be anyone out there that is not on here.
Okay.
Unless they're an imposter.
He's running 2:12:13, so.
Go Vinny.
Yeah, that's right.
Vincent
Okay.
Ruguga.
The halfback.
What kind of sheet you're going to be handing? Put 1, 2, 3 down next to it. That's the English guy. What's his name? That's Nybor. 446 is Nybor.
Gerard Nybor. Ben's out here too. The 1 mile mark, and they ran the opening mile, half of which was on the Santa Monica track in 4:55. And number 446, Gerard Nybor of Holland, is the man who has the lead at the moment as they head down Olympic Boulevard.
Well, that is a very fast pace, close to world record pace. And there is one thing that I think is in the back of the men's mind after watching that women's race. Everyone was so apprehensive about the heat and not knowing the course that the women tended to let Joni Benoit get out there thinking, well, she's not going to run close to her best. These are going to be tough conditions. And the men have looked at the women's race and saw how many women ran close to or set personal records that they've decided that there may not be any limits as to how fast they can run on this course. So they aren't going to let that limit them in their mind. And you see it as Nybor is going out and setting what would be a fast pace under any conditions.
You heard Bill Rogers talk about the weather. It is cooler than anticipated. None of the horror stories have come true. It's possible it could have been 95 and extremely smoggy, but if you're tuning in late, not bad, all things considered. Low 80s right now. They're running down a tree-lined boulevard, and very shortly they'll be going down San Vicente, which is tree line, and then for several miles alongside the Pacific Ocean, and then as the sun goes down, they will head back toward the Coliseum in the developing twilight. Number 446, the runner from the Netherlands, Gerard Nabar, is the leader right now.
One thing that we should point out that the runners will be running from the beach and gradually working their way inland to the Coliseum, and with the difference between the temperature of the ocean and the temperature on the land, that they will have a sea breeze, so that will be a tailwind. It'll be at their backs. So, you know, there's pluses and minuses. It might be hotter out there, but it looks like we've got a 12 to 15 mile-an-hour wind, which might be at their backs for good periods of time. So it's hard to estimate how fast the time is going to be. None of the Americans, strangely enough, have ever run on this course, which is right here in our country, although the Kenyan team and the Mexican Olympic team held their Olympic trials on a race that was held on this course last February.
The United States team was picked in a race that started in Buffalo, New York, and they crossed the bridge, and the last 20 miles of that race were run in Canada, and they wound up in Niagara Falls, Ontario. That race also took place only 11 weeks ago. That was the race, you might remember it, Pete Fitzinger, after giving up the lead team from behind to beat Salazar. All you had to do, though, was finish 1, 2, or 3. The third American qualifier was John Tullum. And of the contenders here, Marty, Salazar has run most recently. What effect might that have, having run a marathon 11 weeks ago?
Well, I think there's no denying it that running 12 weeks ago, 11 weeks ago, even 6 months ago could be a factor. DeCastella has not run one in a year. Seko hasn't run one in 5 or 6 months. So it is a factor. In talking to Alberto before the race, he felt he had recovered from it. They didn't run a 2:09. They didn't run as fast as they thought they might have to run to make the American team. So they look at that as a little bit of a blessing. Nibor is still the leader. He ran in the race, previous race held on this course, and ran 2:11. So he is perhaps confident of knowing the course and knowing what his capabilities are on the course.
Nibor out in front as they approach the 2-mile mark in the Olympic marathon for the first time in 8 years, as Marty says, all of the best in the world getting together. Nibor, by the way, is a fellow that don't necessarily expect him to fade. This man won the silver medal in the Moscow Olympics in 1980. You had a glance there, number 824, one of the favorites, Juma Ikanga of Tanzania.
And you see them going under that shower that's extended out over the road. After 2.5 mile point, which they just passed, they will be able to run under that shower every 3 miles or every 5,000 meters. Although I know that Alberto has said that he's not going to run under it. We can talk about some of the things that Alberto has done to plan this race, but I notice on the far left of the screen, the tall figure in gray, just tucked back in the pack, John Tuttle, the third member of the U.S. team. So he's the first American we've been able to sort out, and there's Alberto now in the center of the pack. Alberto has really taken this heat question very seriously, looked into it, went to a U.S. Army facility and had them run him on a treadmill and simulate the conditions he would be under here and figure out how much fluid he lost at the pace he expects to be running here, and they told him how much he needs to drink. But one of the things they also told him, which was important, I think, is in the past, runners always felt that you should get sprayed or run under that water and it will cool your body temperature down. The people from the U.S. Army told him that's wrong. It closes your pores, shocks your body, and it doesn't help you.
It is Gerard Nabar, the silver medalist in 1980, who is the early leader in the Olympic marathon.
Where's Robbie Biner? We're not getting any splits in here. Can we?
Barry's not hearing a thing, yeah.
Can you talk to them? Press all those buttons.
He couldn't hear me before we went on, but I could hear him.
All right.
Are you going to
no
play
question
my
on
question?
tape? Okay. How much time are you going to give me to lead into that? All right. Okay. Okay.
Well,
So, all right, he was talking about the condition he was in prior to the New York Marathon in '81 as compared to the condition he's in right now. Is that correct? Okay.
I asked him. I did the
Okay.
interview.
I can hear you now, Rob.
Did you find him?
I don't know if you can hear me, I can hear him.
Let's get it straightened out.
No, exactly.
By the way, that 1010, it's not on your program as I got the...
Somebody walk into the control
Who?
room and see how if we can solve that problem.
Sound like he's turtle.
Cocky, they're going to think, oh, I've always turned him.
You got 445 and 446 right there.
So
I
you
looked
didn't write
at
any times
the
down?
10 weeks prior to when I set the
Limb
world
breaks.
record.
Four. He's in that live coverage of the men's marathon, the final event of the 1984 Summer Olympics. They will actually end up in the Coliseum during the closing ceremony. And right now, early on in the race, having moved to the front, Gerard Nabor of Holland, apparently taking the page out of Joan Benoit's book, at least early on, trying to move away for the moment from the rest of the pack. He has his countryman, Cor Lambert's 445, in that group just behind him.
They both have an historical fact going against them, that no one with blonde hair has won this race since about 1924. Now, all of you watching it in the bars, if you would stop laughing, there is a reason for that, because the dark-haired people seem to genetically be able to handle the heat better, and heat is a big factor in this race. So no blonde, light-skinned person has won it since 1924.
Alberto Salazar set the world record in the New York City Marathon, or the world best, to be more precise, as you look at the other Dutch runner up near the front, Cor Lambert's number 445. Salazar's mark in New York, 2:08.13 for the 26-year-old.
Well, they are really opening up on the pack, but one of the things that the runners are very conscious of in these first couple of miles is making sure that they don't miss any water stops. Alberto Salazar was going to drink as much water as he could before the race until he felt uncomfortable. Boy, that guy's pretty good. He could do team handball. Alberto is going to put as much water as he can and then go to every stop. And we asked him what he would do if he missed a stop, if he got caught in the pack, and he said, I'm not missing any stops, because he feels the last 2 and 3 miles, that's going to be a very important factor, that you've got adequate fluid.
And there is Salazar, second in the U.S. trials. We mentioned his world record. He was asked to compare the condition he was in when he set that mark and the condition he is in now.
I looked at the 10 weeks prior to when I set the world record in New York compared to the 10 weeks here. And that time I averaged 105 miles per week. This time I've averaged 108. So they're basically the same. And then I went down and wrote down what my hard workouts were during each one of those weeks. And this time, they're all better than they were before New York. My speed work in terms of my repetition miles and so forth are all as fast or faster. And the one big advantage I think I got, the big difference, is that I've done a lot of hard 20-mile runs. Before New York, I used to just go out there and run easy for 2 hours, maybe 6-minute pace for a 20-mile run. Now, 3 times, I've run at 5:20 pace or faster, and I think that's going to really help me in the marathon. That feeling of being out there and grinding it out for a long time is going to really pay off here, as long as that hasn't been at the detriment of my speed, which it hasn't, because my races and my speed workouts have been as good as they were before New York.
Alberto Salazar, as we come back live, 445, Cor Lambert's. Mile 3 was run in 5:06, so that's the first mile run in over 5 minutes of the first 3.
But the effort is not changing, because this is a slightly uphill portion. Now, Nibor, I haven't really been able to notice if he stopped for water. You know, the dangerous thing in the marathon is for the first 10 miles, you don't think your body needs water. And if you haven't had experience with hot weather marathons, sometimes you just feel so good you don't stop for water in the early going, and it catches on catches up to you later on. Alberto Salazar is continuing. To be a good hot weather runner, but he has also had the problems of collapsing after the race, and that has happened to him twice in the past. Ikanga being fairly conservative here. I see 594 Joseph Zhao also hanging just back off the pace. It's still a very quick pace though. The Africans, of course, are at a great advantage because most of them live at high altitude. Tanzania, particular, very hot and humid. I live in Gainesville, Florida, which I consider to be very hot and humid, but when I went to Senegal one time, I couldn't believe it. In fact, I couldn't keep my shoes on my feet because they were so wet just from sweating. So they are used to the hot and humid conditions, and they're actually cutting back. I mean, this should feel easy to them, but they may get overconfident and feel so good and not take water. They still sweat just as much as everybody else, and they still need to take just as much water.
They're on Bundy Drive heading towards San Vicente Boulevard right now, early on in the Olympic Marathon. Very shortly they will be heading toward the Pacific Ocean.
And you know, Rod Dixon is up there, and that's a good sign for him.
And our coverage continues right after this. Okay. 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 Who are we looking for?
Who had to?
Enzo? What is That's Cor Lamberts. Where is Nabor?
He was right. He was off.
Well,
he
you're
right-
right.
is he right
I'll
there?
relate my, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe some splits. What are we doing? 15 minutes even for 3 miles?
Yeah, they ran 4:55, 4:50.
Let me see that. I'll give it.
Should be going to 4 miles.
Okay.
They're right on 2:11:06 pace.
San Vicente, right, yeah. All right, show me the leader, right? Who is he? Who we got here? Still the same guy? Okay.
Yeah, we got to keep
Okay.
one of the
And his countryman is where, Alan?
Where's
Do you see him?
Nibor?
Where is
Drop.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Neither do I. That's
What is this guy's name exactly?
Cor Lamberts.
Lambrix. He's okay.
I am now, yeah, from 2 miles on. That's a Lumbrick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Al?
Right.
Yeah.
30 back.
ought to
Huh?
stay on the course even when they're interviewing Salazar. Just really ought to stay on the course.
So we can see.
Okay.
That's Lopes there on the left, isn't it?
Right.
23.
7:23, yes.
15.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Where did you underline that thing?
What happened?
6.
Yeah, right. The marathoners have just made the turn from Bundy onto San Vicente, meaning they are heading toward the ocean, heading east to west, and it's still the Dutch runner, 4:45, Lamberts, out in front, and he appears to be giving that lead up right now. His countryman, Nabor, the silver medalist in 1980, the early leader, has gone back into that big pack that follows behind him. And we're going to show you on the map now. They started at Santa Monica College at exactly 5 o'clock Pacific time, working their way through Wilshire and Olympic and up Bundy Drive. And now they are headed toward the ocean. That long strip right there is San Vicente, the median strip to their left, and the trees on the right as we take a look at it.
And they have just passed the 4-mile point. They ran 20 minutes and 10 seconds at 4 miles. They started off, remember, with a 4:55 mile. Then they went 4:59, 5:06, and 5:10 as we look at Pete Fitzinger, the American entry who won our trials. But I find this interesting because it's gradually slowing down, and I wonder how much longer those Africans are going to be able to stand it, because they want the pace to be quick and even, or they're going to want to pick it up. And as they feel it's slowing down, I think that they'll go out and take the pace.
So the early strategy here, taking hold. Number 592 is Kimilgor Ngini of Kenya. It's not Joseph Enzau, who would probably be there, but Enzau is in your picture as well, number 594, so he is right there.
And there is Ikonga, 8:24, Tanzania, who many expected to set a very quick pace. He has been somewhat conservative, and I think that's a good sign for him. He tended to set a very, very fast pace and still ran great times, great competitive efforts. Perhaps by holding back just a little bit at the start, he'll really be able to lay one on the last 15 miles. But it is right now the African continent who is controlling this race.
A lot of people speculated that that's the way it would be. The Dutch runners have gone out with them as well early on, with most of the big names still hanging back and obviously not losing contact right now. People like Salazar, DeCastella, Dixon, Seko, the men you would expect to be there at the end. Still long way to go, about 22 miles in fact. There's a run through the water, run through the spray along San Vicente Boulevard.
And there again, we can bring up the fact that Salazar will be avoiding that because he was told that it shocks your body and it closes your pores and you stop sweating, and it feels good for an instant, but in the long run, it doesn't pay off to cool your body in the shower like that. So he's avoiding that. You know, there are a lot of people running in this race who may not be as educated or have availed themselves to all the scientific knowledge that I think DeCastella, who's an exercise physiologist, and Alberto Salazar have availed themselves of. And DeCastella is now running just the type of race that he wants. He's right behind Hugh Jones, the redhead from England, who's won the London Marathon. And there's DeCastella, 25, holding back, making sure he gets his water. And this is typical of Rob. He does talk during the early stages of a race. He reminds me of something that Kenny Moore, the great marathoner, now writer from Sports Illustrated, said. He said, you can't get psyched up and serious at the beginning of a marathoner. It lasts so long that you try not to get serious until the last 10 miles.
We talked to the coach of Rob DeCastella from Australia, the man expected by many to win this, about training for conditions such as today's.
I believe Alberto Salazar and Seko have both made special efforts to acclimatise and to accommodate the heat factor. I believe this has been over-dramatised by perhaps the media and some scientists, because we find the conditions here quite reasonable, especially late in the afternoon. We found down at Santa Monica that there was a cool breeze, and we don't believe, or I certainly don't believe, that it's necessary to overtrain, to do a lot of training in heat conditions. I think that this may well weaken a runner, although I know Salazar's been training down in Houston in an effort to accommodate the heat, and Seko, I understand, was training on a Japanese island, perhaps Guam, for the same reason. And I just wonder whether this is the best thing. I think that Rob has acclimatised to reasonably warm weather in San Jose or San Francisco Bay region. I think that's quite adequate. I think it's better to be training well to absorb your training and be confident rather than drained, and make special efforts to acclimatise to hot weather, which doesn't seem to be a major problem here in Los Angeles at all.
The thoughts of Pat Clohessy, who has been with DeCastella since Rob was in high school. Clohessy, by the way, was an NCAA 3-mile champion himself while attending the University of Houston. There are the fellas running up in front, including the two Dutchmen, Marty, and obviously they got together and decided this was going to be their strategy early on in the race. You just saw a look at some of the men up near the front of the pack early on in the Olympic marathon. So they're running toward the ocean, toward the Pacific Ocean in Santa Monica, heading down San Vicente Boulevard early in the men's marathon.
All right, what do you want to say? Okay. What else? They're
Yeah.
not come to us, are they?
Lambretts and Nybor. Can we get these lights turned? Well, some of them turned off anyway, unless we know we're coming on.
Yeah.
I was enjoying being a star, Al. JD.
The thing is, the pace is not that fast, and he's not right with them, is he? He's 10
Not all of them.
behind.
We know. We
Yeah.
need some of them, obviously.
Yeah.
They're on 2:30.
Actually, they're running quite slowly. Oh, they, okay, yeah, but 5:10s are way over that.
5:10s is a 2:50.
We have enough light here?
Yeah, what do we got? 25:10 at
25:20. The 2:12:50 is there's that whole group on the other side of the road. 20 back.
okay.
8, 7.
What mile is that, Barry? Approaching mile 6, the men's marathon, approaching the 1/4 mark very shortly, and number 446, Gerard Nabor, who had the early lead. Then he let his countryman Lambretts take over, who has been running with the Africans, and now he is back in front himself, the silver medalist. There is Toshiko Seko, who is very much expected to be there at the end. The man who, if he comes into the Coliseum side by side with anybody, can probably outkick him. He is tremendous at the end, and you had a glimpse of Salazar right behind him. So they are not running with the leaders at the moment, but very much staying in contact with them down San Vicente Boulevard.
That's a good group right there. John Tracey of Ireland, Seko, Hugh Jones, and then just behind them, Alberto Salazar. And the Portuguese runner behind them is not Carlos of Mexico. Okay, Jose Gomez, who stuck with Alberto for 18 miles in one of Alberto's New York Marathon wins. The pace up till now has not been extremely fast. In fact, they're running about 2:13 marathon pace. A bit surprising, I think, that we thought someone would go out and run a little faster. Let's ask Bill Rogers. Maybe the heat is extreme. Bill, can you hear me?
Just barely, Marty.
What about the weather right now, Bill?
Okay. There's a headwind hitting the runners. It's probably about 10 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. As you can probably tell, there's not a cloud in the sky, and from very early on in this race, the runners have been going for the sponges, and they're looking for the shade. It's been only lightly shaded.
We can see some of them.
That's probably why the pace hasn't been faster.
We can see some of them trying to run over by the curb and get as much shade as possible from the tree-lined boulevard as they are heading, as you say, into a headwind right now. But that won't be the case very much longer, because very shortly they'll be heading down Ocean Avenue with the ocean off to their right, and then the last half of the race is basically run with a tailwind. What about your observations, generally speaking, now in terms of the pace, Bill? Well, Bill obviously is not in contact with us at the moment as the transmission is going in and out, but we'll reestablish it as shortly as possible with Bill Rogers out on that motorized cart. Again, that lead pack.
There's a good shot of Ikonga, but right behind him, we haven't seen him before, is Jeff Smith, who ran himself off of his feet in New York City. We remember the great effort that he had, but he was caught at the end by Rod Dixon, and he is up there now near the front for the first time.
Big crowds again, as was the case in the women's marathon, lining the route.
And they are in the shade, but this is going to be about it. After they get on Ocean Boulevard, they get into some direct sun, and this is it. This is probably the most pleasant part of the course. It's also the downhill section of the course, and they aren't picking up their overall pace that much, although I see some of the runners trying to make a little bit break. You know, it's hard to tell if somebody's making a break to get away or if they're coming up to a water station sometimes. And as they come up to the water station, they seem to sprint to get position because they don't want to miss their water bottles. As they come up to the water station, the first table will have perhaps 10 countries' bottles on it. The next one has 10 more. They're listed alphabetically, and you see all the different bottles. They've marked their bottle. That was a nice move by the African. He threw his bottle at one of the other tables, and if he had knocked those bottles down, then Salazar or DeCastella would come up, and their bottle wouldn't be there. And now he's grabbed one from another table. Guess he hasn't been explained the rules. But if somebody were to knock your bottle away, the last step you see there is just water in a cup. And that's a very unfortunate thing if a runner, either intentionally or on purpose, comes up to the water station, grabs his bottle, and decides to drag his hand along the table and knock them all off. I don't know what you can do about that other than to go out and make sure that you hit the water stops in front of that runner. And each of these runners has prepared a solution, usually not water, usually something that they've experimented with before, an electrolyte solution, so they don't want to grab a foreign bottle and find out that it's Fizz Coca-Cola.
That man number 395 is Jeff Smith, who was the winner earlier this year in April of the Boston Marathon, and he talked earlier about his competitive nature. Jeff Smith.
The things that make me such a good competitor are my strength, my courage, my dedication to training, and the will to win, and the will to finish at all costs.
Jeff Smith, winner of the Boston Marathon. It should be pointed out, too, this year, it was an aberrational year for the Boston Marathon. The field was not a high-quality field. It certainly didn't have all of the contenders that the Boston Marathon normally produces, Marty. Most of the guys passing it up because it was simply too close to the Olympic Games and would have interfered with their training for this marathon.
That's true, but you can't take away from Jeff Smith's performance there. It was a very good performance, and coupled with his showing in his first marathon in New York City, he's got to be considered to have a chance unless he lets the heat get to him. The Englishman, obviously living in a cool climate, could have problems with the heat. And the Englishmen in the last marathon in 1980, all three of their men did not finish, so they'll certainly hope to improve on that. They have picked up the pace now as they pass 6 miles. It is now 30 minutes, 12 seconds. The 6th mile was run in 4:52.
Number 775, Ahmed Mohammed Ismail of Somalia, is the leader. As they are approaching about the 1/4 mark, we're some 35 minutes into this race. It's about 25 of 6 in a race that will end at about 10 past 7 at the finish line of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
Who's that guy?
From Somalia.
Well, do we have any bio on? Probably not.
There it is, 2:26:15.
Okay. Well, that's all we need to know. He is not even a BB Bakila.
2:11:58 pace.
Okay.
Who's that now? Yeah, that's the guy.
Birth date's not even available, huh?
I guess not. He's the year Chicago took the world.
Olympics is his 8th marathon in 18 months. I blew that once, so I think I'll give it another try.
15 a year.
Okay.
Here they go down Ocean Avenue.
Where does the Conga stand on the all-time world list?
1 minute.
That one guy
What does that
was
mean?
at a country fair where you
National
take the ball and throw it at the bottles on a table and knock them off.
4:45 for that mile.
Ooh. You establish what his name is.
Yeah.
18-yard lead.
Let's go down to Bill Rogers if we can too.
Yeah. Do we have contact back with Bill by any chance?
20.
We check on that.
Is that down, Bill?
Yeah, that's probably very sharp downhill. Last part is, yeah.
8,
Who's this guy?
7, 6.
Okay. Do we have contact with?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, they've made the turn onto Ocean Avenue. The left turn, they are heading in a generally southerly, southeasterly direction. Actually, right now, the beach at Santa Monica. And it is still number 775. That is Ahmed Mohammed Ismail from Somalia. The best ever marathon time for that man is 2:26:15. So he is not going to be one of the contenders today, but he is having his moment in the sun, so to speak, as he's joined by the Kenyan Kimorgor Injini, number 592.
And number 824 Akanga. And you know what I think he has done? He just ran the last mile in 4:45, much faster than any of the other miles. And in a sense, I think he's gotten Akanga to think, well, that's fast, but I don't feel too bad. Maybe I'll continue this. So they are really notching it down, but they came off of the last part of San Vicente Boulevard, which is not a steep hill by any means, but when you're running the marathon, even the slightest downgrade feels like a cool summer breeze.
Some have speculated, Marty, the Africans all got together and decided they would set the pace the right way so that one of them would win the race. Do you see that happening?
Well, there's no question that the Africans from the same country would stick together, and there are rivalries between continents. But I don't know that they've got any game plan other than that most of them feel that their best shot is to run a fast pace. They are mostly strength runners. They've trained at altitude. Their cardiovascular systems are probably more developed. Simon Keegan, who's not in the picture but one of the Africans, he ran 24 miles a day to and from school. So they're very good on having a strong base to run long distances, but some of the people like DeCastella and Seko, who were former track runners, have better sprints. So the Africans in general feel that their best chance is to set a fast pace. You see Shahanga staying right there with DeCastella.
Rob DeCastella in the yellow, there he is, and you have a better perspective now as to exactly where he is because you're looking at the leader. Still Ahmed Ismail, number 775 from Somalia, whose, as I say, best time is 2:26:15, so he does not figure to be remotely close to the leaders when this one is over.
Well, can we talk to Bill Rogers? It appears to me, Bill, that the crowds are much bigger than they were during the women's marathon. Is that going to have any effect on the runners and maybe why they're picking the pace up? Well, I guess he still can't hear us. They're about as far from our studios as they're going to be right now.
Let's try him again. Bill, can you hear us now?
Hello?
All right, Bill, can you hear us at this point? We're wondering about the crowds and also the latest weather report, if you can hear us.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The crowd here is by far the biggest crowd I've ever seen in a marathon in my life. I mean, it's bigger than Boston or New York or Fukuoka in Japan. This is the biggest crowd I've ever seen, and it's as enthusiastic. This is an interesting course. There's a lot of long uphill and downhill, very gentle grades. It's really, I think, a pretty fast course, a good course for racing. Except for that bright sun. There are no clouds. Everyone's having to use sponges.
They're coming up to the 8-mile mark. Let me get your assessment since we didn't have contact with you the last time I asked you. What about your assessment of the race to this point, Bill?
Okay, it's pretty clear that the Africans from Tanzania, Somalia, other countries, Kenya, they are making their move. They're strong front runners, generally speaking. But I see most of the big names are still up there. Rod Dixon, Rob DeCastella, I think everything's going to form. But there's one thing that I think we haven't touched on that much, and I forgot to talk about initially, and that is that Toshiko Seko is right where he always is, and he often wins. He's running with a cap. He's right behind DeCastella usually. I think he's watching Rob DeCastella.
Are you saying that with the pace the way it is right now and the conditions at all, that you would consider Seko the favorite at this particular point?
I think Seko's going to run really well. I think it's dangerous for Ikanga to be out in the lead like he's doing right now, pushing the pace. He lost that way to Seko before. Maybe he thinks the heat will hurt Seko, but I'm not so sure.
What about DeCastella's strategy to this point?
I think DeCastella is running a smart race. He looks very comfortable. He's generally in the lead pack. He's perhaps the best in the world, one of the best in the world, and he's going to keep in touch with the leaders as long as they're recognizable, high-quality runners.
Bill, how about the water stops? It looks like it's pretty cutthroat there as they approach the water stops.
It seems that some of the runners could not get their water. This is a different race from the women's race. There's twice as many competitors. There's quite a bit, big pack here. Some of the runners just couldn't get their water. I'm not sure who got left out, but that can be a critical factor.
Okay, they have passed the last mile in 4:47, 39:44 for 8 miles, and they are now notching it down to a 2:10 mile pace, a 2:10 marathon pace, and the leader may be one of the African surprises, but it's only 8 miles gone by, so he has a long way to go. He only ran 2:26 coming into this race, but after he wins, we'll all go back and find out that he did it in 98 degrees and it was an uphill course.
Well, let's take a look as they are on a slight incline right now as to exactly where they are. Again, we'll go back to the start at Santa Monica College, where they began things at 5 o'clock or about 43 minutes ago. They are now at that point, at the end of that red line. Santa Monica coming up very shortly on their right will be the Santa Monica Pier on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon in Southern California. Final day of the Olympics, heading down Ocean Avenue. Again, they are tracing the same course over which Joan Benoit and all of the women ran last week. All right, let's get Bill Rogers again.
Bill, are you surprised that DeCastella is right there up on the lead,
No.
even though the pace is this fast?
I'm not that surprised. I think maybe it's more significant. Perhaps I think that Alberto Salazar is about 50 to 75 meters behind the leaders, and I don't think the pace is so fast or the conditions so difficult that it warrants that much caution.
Well, I know talking with Alberto earlier in the week, he was prepared to give the field a 1-minute lead at the halfway point, but we'll see if it works out, Al.
Yeah, it's a little early to make any predictions on any eventual outcome, but all the top names are right in the lead. Carlos Lopes, Dixon, all the top people.
About 8.5 miles gone, about 18 to go in the Olympic men's marathon right now in Santa Monica.
Here, about 30K to go. You can tell me this is the 30K race in football. There's one guy there who really worries.
Who's that?
That's Robles. He's a guy, John Robles
Yeah.
from Djibouti.
I don't know anything about him. He's up there.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get our pieces in early. This is not the most exciting thing yet.
9 miles.
Tried to get it back from
Hey,
Bill.
is there any coffee in there? Coffee with sugar?
Real hot, huh?
What?
Real hot, too.
Real hot coffee.
Real coffee,
Marty.
You know, just coffee that's not more than 4 hours
Well,
old.
now, let's try and put those miles into perspective. They're like off the charts, right? As far as, no thanks.
Going, yeah.
Okay.
What was the overall time?
44:30.
Sugar in the coffee?
They're running at 209 pace now. 209.47.
back.
Their overall pace.
209.47.
Yeah.
Read up the last 2 miles.
of the 23rd Olympiad. Brought to you by Olympic Gold and Silver Coins from the U.S. Treasury. Support the home team. Old Spice Deodorant and Antiperspirant, official sponsors of the U.S. Track and Field Team. AT&T, where reaching out in new directions. And Northwestern Mutual Life, the quiet company, a tough act to follow.
Our live coverage of the Olympic men's marathon continuing. Al Michaels with Marty LaQuarrie, Bill Rogers, and Jim Lampley. And that pack right now out in front, mile 9, as they head down alongside the beach in Santa Monica. 9 miles down, and still many of the Africans right there, along with Rob DeCastella of Australia, the consensus favorite to win it. Salazar is 45 seconds behind at this particular point in the race.
Well, that is a little worrying. They're running 2:09.47 pace, and in talking with Alberto and some of the other Americans, most felt that 2:09.47 would probably be the type of pace that would win the Olympics. So they know that these runners are not going out too fast, and they're not really going to come back. It's not an outrageous pace, as we see Shahanga 8:27 leading. Right behind him is Ikonga. Now, Ikonga has to be highly regarded. He's run 2:08.55 for the marathon, but he has run 5 of them in the last year, but he won his last one at 2:08.55. And he was rumored to be in top shape. Many people thought he would take a big part in the leading of the race, and that has come up. Now, 7:23 is Carlos Lopes, 37 years old, a former track runner. In fact, he was just seconds off of the world record for 10,000 meters, which is 6 miles, just seconds off of that. So he and Seko are probably the best finishers in this race. If for some reason 5 or 6 men were to enter the stadium together, you'd have to look towards Carlos Lopes or Seko, although DeCastella did outkick Lopes in the last 200 meters of a great race in Rotterdam, which we covered 2 years ago.
We saw them taking on water. The importance of that was detailed early in this piece about hydration, done by Marty LaQuarrie. Let's have a look.
The movie Chinatown chronicled the power struggles for water in L.A. The marathoners will be no less intense in their quest to get refreshments. Because in a marathoner, a man who drinks sparingly can lose up to 10 pounds and will probably finish back in the pack. But a man who takes water at every stop will probably still be there at the finish. American Alberto Salazar knows well the danger of not taking enough water. Twice he's come near death when his temperature went to 107 degrees immediately after winning races in conditions quite a bit less humid and hot than those expected here. Now, the way the men can get their drinks is in 3 ways. They can pick their own container, and they can pick their own fluid, and they can put it on a table where their drinks will be listed alphabetically. Or they can put it on the last table where they can just take water, which will be available to everyone. One thing that's important, in most marathons, the people who are watching the race will hand sponges and drinks to the competitors. Here, if a competitor takes an unauthorized drink, he'll be disqualified. One thing that has been clarified was that in the past, competitors felt that they could not give a drink to their competitor or be disqualified. Here it's been clarified that you can take a drink from one of your fellow competitors.
Once again, not much change up near the front right now as they head toward Venice, and from there to Marina del Rey. Again, generally in a southerly direction right now. They will loop around and finish with a tailwind. Salazar, one of the 3 Americans, the others, Fitzinger and Tuttle behind Alberto at this particular point. And at last report, a minute or so ago, maybe 2 minutes ago, he was 45 seconds back.
Well, we've got a good shot of him, and he does not appear to be worrying or grimacing. There's probably no problem with blisters. I think he's just being a little conservative. Alberto is very weary of the heat and is somewhat convinced that the Africans will not take enough water and will come back at the end. The Africans have a typical attitude which we had in this country years ago, which was fostered by so many football coaches, that you don't drink water, you have to be tough. And in marathons in Africa,
the meet organizers say we have to beg these guys to take water because they just feel so good that they don't like to stop to take water, and then it catches up with them at about 20 miles. So Alberto is taking a gamble here in running a conservative race, the same gamble that Greta Weitz made earlier in the week.
He is down to 17 seconds behind now as we speak, so he is picking up the pace and staying very much in contact with the lead runners right now. Heading through Venice, and can you believe the size of this crowd? A 26-mile long course. The only time that there will be very few people observing these runners is when they get on that Marina Freeway, that short 2.5-mile stretch, which they will approach in maybe a half an hour or so, which has been closed to pedestrians and obviously closed to vehicles as well, as you look at some of the men up there running with the lead pack right now. But still, they're being cooled by the ocean breezes, not very far from the Pacific at this particular point. Number 204, Salah Ahmed, up there among the leaders as well right now.
Well, we can probably see that 3 of the big names are up there. Rob DeCastella, Seko just behind him, Shahanga 827, Joseph Zhao 594. So every favorite is really up there except for Salazar at this point.
And DeCastella 25.
And look at number 333. He bears an amazing resemblance to Frank Shorter.
So this marathon will really begin to take shape very shortly as they approach the halfway mark.
.205 looks like he's walking. Is that the guy from Djibouti?
From Djibouti, yeah.
Where's
Djama-
Djibouti? Djibouti's in Africa. What was it
Yeah.
formerly named? Yeah. Well, it would be if they tripped on him, yeah. I mean, yeah, it would be. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, John. Right. John?
No, those aren't reflectors there.
Well, there was one.
Yeah.
Is that Nibor going back into the lead? Yeah. Okay, and
Yeah.
big move.
Nabor.
I'll say Nibor, but it's Nibor.
Mr. Rogers.
It's not, is it? Huh? We've got him
What do you
our
think?
guide.
Neighbor?
Think of Mr. Rogers.
Neighbor. In your neighbor. No, that's Sesame Street. Bojangles. That is that Keegan? 594?
45 back.
Yeah, it is down.
No. Were you talking to Peter Diamond? Where did you get that one?
30 back.
Has to be. We don't need it. Ask Peter where Djibouti is. That's what we really want to know.
15.
What was Djibouti formerly? See if Diamond knows that.
9, 8, 7, 6.
And as we come back, our great and good friend number 446, Gerard Nabor, has reemerged at the front of the pack. Remember him? He was up in front early along with his countryman, Cor Lambretts, and then he seemed to fade back into the pack. And here he is again, making another move as they run down the streets in Venice, heading toward Marina del Rey. Mile 11 down, and a little bit more than 15 to go. 4:53 is the last split.
Well, they just passed another water stop, and it was interesting. I saw Ikanga hand the sponge to Carlos Lopes, a nice gesture on a hot day such as this. We thought that the water stops were getting a little cutthroat, but Ikanga, being a seasoned veteran, knows the rules that you will have to run against these men sometime in the future. So do unto them as you want them to do to you with the water. And there is Salazar. And knowing Alberto's plan a little bit, having talked to him, I don't think he's too worried at this point. He said he could stand giving them up to a minute's lead at 13 miles. Now they're approaching at the 12th mile, and he's less than 20 seconds behind, so this is his race plan in the heat of the battle, and there really is some heat out there. You can't change your race plan. You've got to run your race and take into consideration the environmental factors, but not give so much credence to what the other runners are running up in front of you.
And again, the crowd's just lining the streets of Santa Monica, West Los Angeles. Soon they'll be heading into Culver City and then down Rodeo and Exposition Boulevards and into the Coliseum to finish up in front of a crowd that I'm sure will number more than 90,000, the crowd that has gathered for the closing ceremony. And the marathon finish will be part of the closing ceremony. Very difficult to estimate, obviously, over a 26-mile marathon course, an overhead view, but that's the way it's been throughout this marathon. Crowds lining the course, obviously the people watching television up to that point, knowing about what time the runners will pass, by aware of what's happening in this race, and knowing that the Africans, for the most part, running out in that lead pack early on, along with two men from the Netherlands, and also the big favorites right there, DeCastella, staying right there in striking position, number 25. And let's get a near mid-race report right now from Bill Rogers. Bill, your observations now.
Okay, they're just entering an area where there is not much shade. There are the African competitors, Kenyan Joe Nazao, Tanzanian Yumi Okanga is still in the lead, Shahanga still there, DeCastella. The top names are pretty much up there. To be honest, I would be concerned about Alberto. He's always been a runner who has fought kind of hand-to-hand or foot-to-foot, whatever you wanted, with the top competitors, and right now he's off a significant margin at this time. I think he's a competitor when he's right next to people. That's when he competes best, so I'm a little concerned that he's back this far. Dixon is about 50 meters back. He's still in striking distance. Nibor, I think, is the guy we have to watch. He won the European champs in bad heat in 1982, a silver medalist in the heat of Moscow. Seko keeps looking around behind him, but he looks really under control.
And he has that tremendous kick, as we all know. There's DeCastella in your picture right now.
DeCastella looks
25
fine.
of the Africans running out in front and very used to the warm conditions. And here were Alberto Salazar's thoughts on the Africans running in the heat.
You know, you can train in hot weather and you get to the point where you've gotten used to the feeling of being hot. It doesn't feel so bad to you. And that's definitely the case with the Africans. But they are still sweating the same amount and still losing the same amount of water. And perhaps even more. The more you train in heat, the more sweat you actually produce. It's the body's mechanism to cool itself. And finally, you get to the point where physiologically everybody's the same. Once you get above 5% dehydration stage, your performance is going to suffer. So, you know, whether you've trained in heat all your life, once you lose that certain amount of water, that percentage of water, your performance is going to suffer. And a lot of these Africans are just going to be cocky. They're going to think, oh, I've always trained in heat. I don't have to take water. And that's nonsense. You've actually got to take more water if you're sweating more.
Salazar's theory, several different theories, obviously, as they keep learning more and more. What the runners are learning right now is they're moving from Venice into the marina area, and they will very shortly be curling around and heading toward the Marina Freeway. There are some of the men up near the front, including the 37-year-old Lopes from Portugal, DeCastella, the big favorite of many, and Nzau of Kenya as well.
And Charlie Spedding of England is right up there in that first group, number 396. We haven't given him a call. He is one of the great marathoners in the world.
He's 32 years old. He's run a couple of marathons both this year. One in Houston in January, London in April. So a man running his third marathon of 1984, somewhat uncommon.
And he has won them both as we look at Ikanga with Rob DeCastella staring at his back. John Tracey of Ireland, 471, running his first marathon at the end of a fairly distinguished career of 10,000-meter road racing.
And here's where they curl around. This is where they were heading southerly, in a southerly direction, and now moving back to the north just for a brief while here. Look at that crowd gathering on the rooftop in Marina Del Rey, and back they'll come now. Very shortly, they will be approaching the Marina Freeway. We talked about it last week. It was a freeway. Originally, they had grandiose plans. It was going to be a major east-west artery in Southern California, and budget problems, other problems. Originally, it was going to be named the Richard M. Nixon Freeway, and they wound up naming it the Marina Freeway, a truncated route right now with not much traffic, and the runners will be approaching the hot asphalt of that freeway very shortly, also approaching the halfway mark of the men's marathon.
Here, bring this up to date, Barry. I asked Alan Steinfeld for a clarification on that.
What was that the other picture on there was what now?
It was this. It was the leaders. See, in other words, we...
Oh, what do you... Tell me what
we
you...
were going away to the
Yeah.
closest and all that. We couldn't see the race.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That one was the race.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
That stays on the leaders?
Nail
Well,
it.
now 45.
45?
Stays on the leaders.
Huh?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you leave that on 45 then. It's just I got confused for a second.
Yeah, I just don't want to get confused. If we can leave it on 45, it helps us.
I can have it. Why? All right. As an on-camera thing or as a straight thing? I can read the script then.
No 13.
I've got it. Yeah.
Did you get that, Marty?
In physical ordeal, that one often wonders just what goes on in their minds psychologically during those 26 miles. That's the lead. You have a copy of that then, right?
2 heats and a final.
Okay, so that stays on the leaders there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I got confused for a second. I couldn't tell which was on the... Yeah, okay.
We're not going to do the 13 miles, but just a halfway, 13.1. Are we going to do this on camera?
No.
They need to see it in the booth, Joe, so roll it. 8,
Okay.
7, 6, 5.
A look again at the leaders. The marathon approaching the halfway mark. Enzao, DeCastella, Ikanga, Shahanga, Lopes, some big names up there running right near the front. Again now, for perspective, take a look. The start at Santa Monica College and down San Vicente. They've already made their way down Ocean Avenue. Now heading back in that northerly direction. That's the general area they are in right now. Marina del Rey. And right now heading toward the east, as very shortly they will be approaching the freeway we just spoke about, the Marina Freeway. And Marty, I'm wondering about the asphalt. It's getting cooler, obviously, with the sun beginning to go down at 4 minutes past 6, the twilight approaching in Southern California. But that freeway asphalt has been baking in the sun all day long.
Well, there's definitely some heat retention. There's no question about it that even after the sun goes down, it stays hot for a while, and that's why running a marathon in the morning is somewhat better, because the roads have not been heated for the entire day, but in the morning it does get hotter and you finish in the heat. Here, as they run the race and their bodies are running down, they will be running into cooler temperatures, so you can't have you can't have everything. You got a problem no matter which way you go with it when you're running it in a hot climate, but it does appear that the temperatures are not turning this into a death march, and that it's going to be a pretty good test of who the best marathoner is.
As good a day as anybody could expect under the circumstances in the middle of August. Alberto Salazar, you can see off the pace right now. He was as much as 45 seconds behind early on. There he is, number 936, America's top marathoner.
Well, one thing that Alberto is very good at is running an even pace. And the pace for the first miles, 4 or 5 miles, was around 5 minutes, a little bit over. And then there was an incredible amount of running in the middle, the next 4 miles, where they were running 4:52 and 4:45. And I think Alberto resisted the temptation to go with that pace, and that's why Seko and DeCastella in the pack has pulled away from him. There's Seko. Great look at DeCastella. He's got the hat on backwards, and he's got the water running with the water, making sure he gets enough water, not just drinking out of a cup and then taking one swig and throwing it away. He's chosen to grab his bottle and run with it for a half mile or a mile or so.
It's interesting, too. I'm thinking about some of the really head-to-head confrontations that have been built up during the Olympics. We had Decker and Bud, and everybody knows what happened there with Kuika of Romania winning the race. We had the Stones and Zhu confrontation in the high jump, and they wound up finishing 3rd and 4th. And this one, supposedly a head-to-head battle between Seko and DeCastella, in the opinion of many. Well, they're side by side, and they're right there in contention, and it very well may end up that way, but still a long way to go as We are at the halfway mark of the marathon. Well, you know, during the past few years, the running craze has swept America. The physical benefits are well known. Even casual runners will often talk about how mentally refreshed they feel after a good run. But running a marathon is a totally different story. It's such an incredible physical ordeal that one often wonders just what goes on in their minds psychologically during those 26 miles. They have completed a little bit more than 13 and a half miles. That means this marathon is half over, a little bit more than an hour to go. There are the leaders in the final event of the Olympics.
I knew it was one of your ending swallow the words, but I hadn't heard we were leaving.
No. Oh, you didn't hear? You
No.
didn't hear the count.
It's what comes from having talked to you more than I talked to my wife in the last 2 months.
Wait a second. Oh, this is why is that line
Don't know
different
where
than
it did
this
that.
line? No.
Slow it down.
Here's a commercial.
Oh, they have 8 control.
Huh? What? But that's in sync with this, right?
506 for the 14th mile, huh?
No, it's not now.
But,
It should be now. Slowing down, it's a 506 mile.
okay.
Okay.
What happened there?
They had it on 8 control, too.
I mean, what's going on? The output to air is 28, right?
Yeah.
I would hope.
About 210 pace. Yeah, that's 8.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see when we come
James O, does that monitor have Salazar? Are they still keyed on him? I know you switched it off.
There's one camera that is keyed on Salazar.
Yeah, we ought to keep that one on, because this
Chuck,
one, they're too
can we get a
similar.
Salazar? What about a Salinger or a Fitzinger position report? We haven't talked at all about it.
47, I thought.
Okay. And we haven't mentioned...
Rod Dixon?
There he is.
Is that the leaders right there?
Okay.
That's the leaders right there? And Rod Dixon is leading?
They were in a 506 last month.
Wow.
Okay.
Salazar should point up to them.
Is that Parmentier with
Yep.
Salazar?
Yep. Armand. He's 20. Dixon, huh? There we go. It ends out, huh? Live again, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Closing ceremonies will be taking place there, and among the attractions will be the finish of the men's marathon coming up at the Coliseum. Still very close out in front with Enzow, number 594, Lopes, number 723. You've got Rod Dixon on the left in the black, number 688 from New Zealand, who was an Olympic bronze medalist at 1,500 meters way back in 1972 in Munich. And here he is 12 years later, looking for a medal in the marathon. Salazar, and we're peeking over his shoulder there right now, Alberto Salazar is 23 seconds behind the leader. Now they are approaching the Marina Freeway. They will be on that stretch of freeway for about 13, 14, maybe 15 minutes upcoming, and that will be about the only time that big crowds will not have lined their way. The crowd's thinning a bit as they do approach that freeway right now, and then they'll come back onto Rodeo Road after heading up Overland Avenue and Jefferson Boulevard in Culver City. And you can see as we look over the shoulder of Salazar just where the leaders are. We can also tell you that Pete Fitzinger, who won the Olympic trials, is approximately 1 minute and 20 seconds behind the leaders, and the other American, John Tuttle, is trailing Fitzinger. So those are the placements for the 3 American runners at the moment as you look at the lead pack heading on to the Marina Freeway in the fast lane.
Well, that's a big pack to be 23 seconds behind. If you're taking the gamble, as I think Alberto might be, that some of the runners are going to die, it's not likely that 10 or 15 of them are going to die, but he's only 23 seconds behind. I wouldn't count him out yet. He's been running, I think, an even pace back there, where the leaders have been dropping down as low as 4:47 and as high as 5:10. They went through the halfway point at 1:04:53, which would be about a 2:09:50 marathon pace. So they're running a pretty good pace, and if they get inland, and it starts to feel really hot. You know, they still got that stretch to go on the freeway, which is very warm, direct sun. If it does get hot, you might see some people having problems even the last 5 miles. Most people have heard about the wall in the marathon that comes at about 20 miles when the body's glycogen supply runs out, and 20 miles is really considered the halfway point in a marathon.
That's where this one will really obviously take shape, take form. We will begin to sort them out as they head down Rodeo Road and on to Exposition Boulevard. Again, not much change up amongst the leaders. Number 396 in your picture is Charlie Spedding. Talked about him before, running his 3rd marathon of the year, having won the previous 2 that he entered. Houston in January and London in April in a personal record time, 2:09.57. There is Seko, a man with a tremendous kick, keep in mind. He has a tremendous kick. Lopes has a tremendous kick. I mean, DeCastella is right there with him, but generally Seko, among the aficionados of this sport, is regarded as the man with the best kick of all. So, Toshiko Seko of Japan, trying to win a medal at the age of 28. Let's meet him up close and personal.
They talk about the loneliness of the long-distance runner, but 28-year-old Toshihiko Seko knows only companionship when he runs alone. He is always with his sensei, his master, his coach, Kiyoshi Nakamura. The companionship is not physical, but spiritual. Seko and Nakamura are one. Nakamura has molded Seko by using the ancient Eastern traditions of torturous physical training along with Eastern religious philosophies. This bond forms a solid foundation for Seko's growth as an athlete and a man. In medieval Japan, Seko would have certainly been a samurai. At the Soshiji Temple near Tokyo, Seko, along with Nakamura, studies concentration using the techniques of the ancient Zen masters. Even a sharp blow should not distract the properly focused mind. Nakamura has molded many athletes. He treats them all equally.
First of all, a coach must be a parent. Next comes the role of an older brother. And while being a friend, a coach must also be a teacher. Finally, a coach must be a fellow athlete, a comrade.
Things always turn out as the coach says, so in some ways I'm scared of him. But I also trust him. When I first met the coach, he said if I ran a marathon, I would be the best in the world. I did not believe him at all. I first began to believe it could be true when I ran in a marathon and placed 5th. From then on, I saw that the coach's prediction could be correct.
The Sendagaya district of Tokyo is where Seko and Nakamura live and train. Between April 1980 and July 1981, Seko ran an unusually intense schedule of 22 races, including 2 marathons. The damage to Seko's legs was severe. For almost 2 years, he didn't run a marathon. To stay in shape, he walked and walked and walked. Finally, he was ready again. In December 1983, Seko won the Fukuoka Marathon. He was back at last. And now Seko is ready for the Olympics. His awesome dedication and monastic lifestyle have prepared him, and Nakamura will be with him every mile. Their philosophy echoes a verse Nakamura often uses from Ecclesiastes. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor.
There he is live. They're telling us the temperature at that point on the course is 84 degrees at this moment, at roughly 19 minutes past 6 o'clock. Seko of Japan, really perfectly positioned, a man with a great kick. They have completed 15 miles, average 4:58 per mile, so 15 down, and 11 miles to go as they run along the basically deserted Marina Freeway. There's the lead pack again, and he's right with them. So the men's marathon continuing with about 11 miles to go. Another look at the leaders. Can we bring in Bill on this next segment? Okay.
John, okay, you got your bottom of your card on John Tracey. See what he said? Look at him really throwing the water on himself. That's
5,000
Moscow,
was,
1980.
Oh.
He passed out.
Bill,
can you hear me?
Hello?
Bill, you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. We'll come to you shortly here.
Good enough.
Okay.
How's it going down there?
Fine. This is really fascinating, I'll tell you. I mean, it's fascinating to watch Seko. You know, it's very, very interesting. It's like he's cruising. The So brothers are running their usual style, and so is Seko. Everyone's kind of running the form. Alberto is not, you know, he's not in desperate situation. He's right in position still. He can move up.
Yeah.
I hope he can move up ultimately because it'll be tough after a while. He's got to run with a pack, in other words.
Bill, we're not on, so save that, huh?
I know.
Okay.
Okay. Who's 207 or 205 on the left-hand side? He looks real good.
I think he's from Djibouti.
Right. Right. You know anything about him?
I know nothing other than he's run a 2:11 marathon. It's the only one I ever heard of.
He looks real good.
He looks really good, but I can't believe he has...
2:11:25, yeah.
The thing that's going to count in this race is going to be the speed at the end. It's becoming more and more apparent, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's not that fast a pace right now, you know.
What happened to Dixon? Where'd he go?
He's still there. He's right in the side. Is that today?
Okay.
That is unbelievable. Everyone is going.
All right.
Holy man.
Let me see that again. 5:05 for 16.
1:19:32. One guy got killed by a pitch.
What's on...
It's only baseball, Al.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Unbelievable sight. The Marina Freeway crowds have been ringing this entire course, but no fans allowed, no spectators allowed out on the freeway. But Bill Rogers is there. Bill, let's bring you in for your observation with 10 miles to go now. What do you think?
Right, it's becoming a fascinating race. It's very interesting strategy. Seko is trailing the field in his usual position. He looks very comfortable. He's running with a water bottle now. He's got his cap on. DeCastella is kind of forging the pace this time. A little bit unusual, but I think he senses it's a little slow, and pretty soon he's going to have to start moving if he's running for the gold.
Would you generally agree with those who feel that Seko has the best finishing kick of all?
I think there's no question about it. He's a good 10,000 meter runner. He took Selumet Nambui, who was the silver medalist in Moscow at 5,000 meters. He took him right to the tape at a 10,000 a few years back. He's very quick.
In light of the pace, in light of what you have witnessed, is there anybody we're overlooking who would have a shot to win the gold medal? Anybody that nobody has speculated about to this point?
Well, there's a runner from an African nation, Djibouti, who's running really well. He's running 2:11. I can't see that, though, that this race is going to go to a man just because he has strength. I think he's going to have strength and speed. And the #1 guy with that combination is Toshiko Seko. But it's still early. Alberto Salazar still can move. Nybor is maybe 40, 50 meters off the pack. But more and more, it's starting to look like the gold medalist might come from the pack just in behind me.
When do you expect somebody to make a big move here?
I would expect that it will happen when we get into a little shade. For one thing, we've been hitting about 4 miles of sun, and people are going to be a little bit concerned. Everyone's going to be worried, a little bit slow. I would estimate with perhaps 5 miles to go, DeCastella will have to do everything he can to break away from Seko.
Can you detect, I know you're in a moving vehicle, it's hard, but can you detect a tailwind right now?
Yeah, there is a slight headwind, I believe, for the runners.
Which is odd, meaning that...
No, I got it wrong. I take that back.
Okay.
There is a slight tailwind, maybe about 7 or 8 miles an hour, just enough to move the branches on the trees a little bit.
The ocean is at their backs right now, heading down the Marina Freeway, and there is Salazar.
Well, they just ran a 5:05 mile for the 16th mile, and one thing you have to think about, that all Alberto has to do, he's 30 seconds behind the leader, but if he just makes up 2 seconds per mile, he can catch them at the finish if they maintain that pace. And I think he looks very good. He's concentrating very well. He doesn't seem upset about anything, and he's maybe being conservative. You know, many times you go into a race and you say, I'm going to win this race. I'm going to stay with whoever is leading the race until I drop. And obviously DeCastella and Seko and Rod Dixon have made that commitment. Dixon already has a bronze medal. He's not going to run for a bronze medal. On the other hand, sometimes the winners and the medalists are the ones who run a conservative race, hold back, and when people start dying because they went out too fast or didn't take enough water, they come up and they get them. And Alberto may, for whatever reasons, the training the last 2 years, may just decide, I'm going to take the gamble. I would like to get a medal, and maybe the gamble will almost pay off big enough to get the gold medal. So he has to just think about now making that up 2-3 seconds per mile, not get excited and try and make it up all in 1 mile. And Alberto's strength is running even pace. I've seen him run 20-mile workouts where the miles didn't vary by more than a second or two.
Still the lead pack. They will very shortly be exiting the Marina Freeway, winding their way through Culver City, Overland Avenue, Jefferson Boulevard, and then pretty much be running in a straight line for approximately 5 miles down Rodeo Road, which turns into Exposition Boulevard, and in about 45 minutes or so, roughly 45 minutes into the Coliseum. And again, once they reach the Coliseum, about a 500-meter jaunt around the track. Mile 17, the Marina Freeway. DeCastella, that last mile, 4:53, which is the fastest split for the last 7 miles.
Well, this is something that someone who's trying to catch up, like Alberto Salazar or now Rod Dixon, has dropped off the pace. The thing is, if you do take that gamble that you're going to run an even pace and aim at something, if you're not in the thick of things, when people start to surge and maybe run hard for a quarter of a mile to try and break the pack, you're not up there to sense it, you can't go with it. The other thing Alberto has going against him, he's all by himself. You know, we saw it in cycle racing. If you're back behind the leading pack, but you've got 2 or 3 other people to work with you and move up to that pack, that's a lot easier than doing what Alberto's trying to do, and that is catch the pack by himself. You'll see the runners behind him are going to stick right with Alberto, let him do the work, and hope that he'll pull them along.
Well, he is 34 seconds back. At last report, Pete Fitzinger was 1.5 minutes back, and the third American, John Tuttle, from Alfred, New York, is well back. He is lagging by 3 minutes, 20 seconds. So Salazar more than a half minute behind right now as they are exiting the Marina Freeway. And now once again, after the relative quiet for the past 15 minutes on the freeway, with only those who are volunteers working the race, marshaling the course on the freeway, back to the crowds in Culver City right now. At the 28-kilometer mark, you can see the course marked in kilometers.
And I would say that DeCastella has to feel very good about this right now, because in his last race at the Commonwealth Games with the Conga, he had a much bigger problem with the Conga, because at this point, the Conga has surged out to a huge lead of over a minute. So he's got to be saying to himself, gee, I'm right with him now. I caught him from behind the last time. I don't have that problem this time. Now I just have to bury him the last 6 miles or so.
There they are again, the leaders, our spotters charting the leaders. DeCastella, Lopes of Portugal in among them. Salazar now more than half a minute back. Seko is positioned. You can see the Japanese flags off to the runner's left here in Culver City.
We've got to report that the air temperature is 85 degrees, the ground temperature 95 degrees. And to put that into perspective, the best marathon conditions would be somewhere between 45 and 50 degrees.
So off the freeway, back to the streets, and about 40 minutes from the finish of the men's marathon.
What's that? Yeah.
Chuck, how long is the next commercial break?
Let's take a consensus of how many people think Salazar's out of it.
Chuck?
Oh, well, all the experts.
Can I split for 1 minute and 30? Thank you. At the next break, I will. Okay, yes.
He has been?
Yes.
Oh.
I recall.
He's knocked off the Nautilus. Let me get some.
But you didn't leave any. You didn't leave any.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is
How
that
did you
where he
know
ran
that?
his 211? Is that where he ran his 211?
45 back.
Yes, 2:11:25. Now that's his best time. Hold on a second.
Okay, thanks.
Jama Roble.
It's back.
That's
No,
which So brother is that?
That's 2:05.
Is 566.
565
is
Spitting the Conquer battle.
Yeah, in a while. No, we
I
had
did.
Charlie Spedding, and we talked about him winning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for some bios now.
We've got him on. We've got Spedding covered.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
The leaders again. With the marathon about 38, 39 minutes away from conclusion. Number 396 from Great Britain, 32-year-old Charlie Spedding. We talked about him as the man who has already won 2 marathons this year. Mile 18, meaning we have a little bit more than 8 miles to go. Just about the 2/3 point. Now, mile 17 was run in 4:53. And mile 18 in 5:13. So the pace really slowed down over the last mile.
Well, that was the slowest mile of the race. Bill Rogers, can you hear us? Are we on an uphill grade right now?
There is an uphill grade here. There is some shade. Everyone is showing the strain of the race. Everyone's covered with sweat, covered with water. There's a pack of about 10 people. You can see Dixon and one of the So brothers starting to fall back. The race is breaking up. This is getting into the real nitty-gritty of the marathon. The race begins at 20 miles, they say, and I'd say that is true.
So we're about 2 miles from that point right now. Do you still like Seko's chances?
I think Seko looks better than anybody here so far. Charlie Spedding from England looks pretty strong. Lopes keeps looking around. Seko looks under control. He doesn't look like he's perspiring or having any trouble. DeCastella, he looks pretty comfortable also. It's still early. These guys have not cracked yet.
It seems, Bill, that the Japanese are having a great race. They've got all 3 of their men up there in that pack, don't they?
Yeah, they're all up there. They're all 3 of the finest marathoners in the world, though. One of the So brothers, I'm not sure if it's Takeshi or Shigeru, is falling back. He's really grimacing a lot, and though he often runs that way, I think he's having a little trouble.
There is Salazar. Now he is dropping further back. He is 45 seconds behind. Bill, what about the effect of the fact that he had to run, unlike so many of the others, a marathon 11 weeks ago? Do you think that's taking its toll right now, or is it something else?
I think there's only one answer I can give to that, and that is that it does not help the athlete. And I think we should do everything you can to help the athlete be in his best position at the Olympic competition.
So the answer is what? To hold a marathon 4 or 5 months beforehand? The trials, that is?
That's right. I think there are only a few countries in the world that have very severe competition to make their Olympic team, and ours is one. And we had ours so close to the Olympics, I can't see it helping our team.
Well,
in the case of the women with Joan Benoit, there is not as much depth of competition on the women's side, so it was relatively easy for Joni to make the team.
Right. That was the flip side of it. I was going to say that Joan ran some 12 weeks after the women's marathon trial. And you have Salazar today, along with Tuttle and Fitzinger, having run 11 weeks ago in the marathon in Buffalo, New York. There's the lead pack on a bright and sunshiny day in Los Angeles as the pack heads toward the Coliseum. And the crowd is unbelievable. As we've watched it from the very start of the race, we've been looking at basically the same men now for several miles in that lead pack. John Tracey of Ireland is also up amongst them right now, number 471. He has joined that group. Ikanga has been up there since the very beginning, and so has Spedding and Enzal. DeCastella hanging right there.
Tracey of Ireland and Lopes and Seko, who may be the best positioned of all, and Takeshi So of Japan.
Well, as Bill mentioned, it's getting to the breaking point now. There's a great shot of Carlos Lopes, who ran fantastic in the marathon in Rotterdam, right with DeCastella to the last 200 yards. Everyone had expected him to go speeding by DeCastella, but DeCastella held him off. Boy, he wanted that water. That's a problem, but he'll have another shot at water. But the thing that's, you know, you have to remember, he ran a great marathon, a 2:09 marathon, looked good doing it. He's run 3 marathons. The other 2, he dropped out at 20 miles, and they are not to 20 miles yet. So this is not, the race for the medals is far from over.
Quite in contrast, this race to the one we saw last week with Charlie spinning up there. He's number 396. Lopes is number 723. Just to identify some of the numbers of the men you're watching in that lead pack. Enzao is 594. DeCastella number 25. Of course, Seko is 563. Tracey of Ireland is 471. Ikanga 824. And of course, Salazar back off the pace now, number 936. So you can pick out the man you want to watch as we approach the 19-mile mark in the Olympic marathon.
I mentioned what a great race the Japanese were having. The Irish have John Tracey up in that first group, and Jerry Kernan, who is also from Ireland, 32 years old, has run 2:13:20. A good shot of Salazar now, who with every moment now is getting into more trouble. It's really too late for him to be this far behind. At this point, if he were to have a chance, he would have to be getting those seconds back every mile, and he doesn't appear to be doing it right now.
The last mile, 5:11. The average right now, 4:59, and the composite time is about 1 hour and 35 minutes. About 35 minutes to go. They've completed 19 with a little bit more than 7 miles remaining in the marathon.
Well, they've slowed drastically in the last 2 miles. If we saw another 2 miles like this, then we would know that some of the runners are in great pain, because if it slows down this much from 4:53 to a 5:13 and a 5:11, there must be a lot of pain, and also no one is making the move and saying, well, it's slowing down, I'm going. So we know that they're all hurting equally as much, and that's good for people who have dropped off the pace like Dixon and Salazar.
Bill Rogers, has it gotten a little cooler since they exited the freeway?
Yeah, they've hit an area of shade for about the last mile, I would say. Everyone's looking pretty tired, I'd say, at this stage. Seko has dropped his hat. DeCastella is now behind Seko. Dixon is about 35 meters back. There's still, as you can see, 10 or 12 people here. They're all trying to run in the shade. Yuma Ikanga looks very tired, but he's still right in the lead where he's been from the start.
The lead pack in the marathon with about 7 miles to go. Final event of the 1984 Olympics.
Oh, we got a time on this. We've got the time, huh? Tracey card.
Here it is.
Jerry Kiernan. I think he went to Providence, didn't he? Huh?
I don't.
Salazar's 44 seconds back.
Okay, what else can we talk
I just
about?
thought that Tracey thing was interesting that he had, you know,
Yeah.
because he could just suddenly go out like a light.
And I'll know it happened to him before. Yeah. Oh, in the race?
In Moscow, he was in great shape. 2 laps to go, and all of a sudden, with 3/4 of a lap to go, he started reeling. And that was the only reason we
What other esoteric things can we talk about? 205 is a guy from
You're
Djibouti,
right, you're
isn't
right.
he?
Yeah, Jerry was really relaxed. He was G. I think it was G, right? Anyway, he went to Providence.
Yeah.
That guy, 205, next to Seko, they shoot that shot, looks really relaxed.
I know, that's a guy from Djibouti.
Yeah. And there's 204 from he was really nifty.
Well, we only know about them if they run fast, you know, under 212, but
Inspired by the song.
204, you mean, not 205.
204 and 205 are both in it.
Oh.
They're having a great team race, too.
15.
Don't rest on your laurels and you get on.
Djibouti was French Somalia.
5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2.
We're back right now running in the shade. And at the Coliseum, That is what they are looking at this very moment as we pull back that big television board, the peristyle into the Coliseum. That is how the people who are filing in to the Coliseum are observing what is taking place out on the streets right now. And so they'll be well aware, as you can see, they're getting all prepared for what figures to be just a fabulous closing ceremony, which naturally we'll be covering for you. And this is part of it, the end of the marathon, and what a way to conclude it. Again, the lead pack.
And it's starting to look like a college dual meet. We have two runners up there, 2:04 you see, from Djibouti, formerly French Somaliland. They have two runners. Providence College has two runners up there. Both of them Irishmen, however. John Tracey, 4:71, and Jerry Kiernan on the left in the green shirt. So it seems that there's a few countries that have some tremendous strength, and the two men from Djibouti seem to be the surprise of these games.
Right now in Culver City, mile 20, so a little bit more than 6 to go. And again, let's retrace the path. It began at 5 o'clock, Santa Monica, down San Vicente, then along the ocean. They've made that turn, traversed the freeway, and there it is, the 20-mile mark. Right there, that's Jefferson Boulevard. And again, that's the spot where they will look off to their right and see a site indigenous to Los Angeles.
20 miles in 1 hour, 39 minutes, 52 seconds, a 5:05 for the last mile. And that average pace is very quick, very quick. We know it's hot out there, we know it's tough, and there's Salazar.
Salazar 45 seconds back as of about a mile ago. Right now they are on a pace in which the winner will finish in 2 hours and 11 minutes.
And Alberto's time, the world best, is much quicker than that. Although I know he was not going out to try and run 2:08 pace, but he did not want to run this far off the pack at this point in time. You see him glancing at his watch, so you'd have to hope that he knows where he is and how fast he's going, and is doing everything that he can. He's starting to move on some of these runners who are starting to feel the effects of going out too fast, although that lead group does not seem to be having any tremendous crash and burn victims. They have slowed down, but no one has really shot out the back door drastically with heat problems or anything of that choice.
He's now 1 minute and 3 seconds behind, so things not looking very good at all for Alberto Salazar of the United States. Marty, who do you feel is most advantageously positioned right now?
Well, I'd have to agree with Bill that if the pack does not get away, then Seko is going to turn this into a track race as they hit the track in the stadium. I would expect, we're at 20 miles now, that within the next 3 miles, that DeCastella will make a move to pull away if no one else does it. And Seko will try to go with him, and also Carlos Lopes will have very good chances of winning. But Ikanga, I think, has surprised everyone by running a very smart race, not going out and setting an outrageous pace in the beginning of the race. And when he's run 2:08 by using a pace that was not very smart, let's say, when he runs an even pace like this, he should be tough at the end.
Now you've got Seko and DeCastella in the 21st mile. There they are. In the opinion of many, was going to wind up as a head-to-head duel between those two. It just might. And there they are right now, very much in contact with that lead pack, forming part of that lead pack for quite some time, just off the pace being set at the moment. And the crowds continue to line the streets of Los Angeles.
Well, I have to wonder if DeCastella dropped back some 20, 25 yards because he's hurting, or as it appears that he's just as smart and dropped back so we have a good, clear run at the water station, knowing that he needs that water. But you've got to wonder if the Africans now are making a move and passing up the water stop on purpose to just gain that extra 10 or 15 yards. It's much like auto racing where the pit stops
come into such great play. We saw in the women's marathon, Joan Benoit passed up the first water stop, gained a 10-yard advantage, and was never caught again.
And right there is Charlie Spedding from Great Britain. Juma Ikanga of Tanzania. Spedding is 32. Ikanga 27. Marty mentioning Ikanga normally setting the pace, and today a little more slowly, so perhaps he will be right there at the end with what figures to be a great finishing charge by Seko and DeCastella and the rest. John Tracey, number 471, in your picture as well right now.
I think we should go to Bill right now. Bill Rogers, Marty, if you can hear me, what's happened to DeCastella?
Marty, that's just what I was going to say. Just about 1 minute ago at a water stop, Rob DeCastella is falling off the pace. This pack really is splitting up once again. He's about 30, 35 meters behind. There's still 6 to 7 runners in the lead. I'm not sure. There's been a lot of... I think it's got to be the effect of the heat. There's a tremendous... It's just like a wide open parking lot, and the sun is really glaring down. And he seems to have fallen off a significant amount. He looked like he was really kind of struggling, kind of like he was feeling the heat a bit. And Seko still looks impassive and like the heat is not bothering him at all. The same thing is true of Carlos Lopes. He's turning around a lot and looking over to the side of the other runners. He looks like he's feeling the stress of the race, yet he's hanging in there.
You think he may just be going through a bad patch and will be able to recoup, or are we getting too late into the race?
I think it's dangerous for Rob DeCastella to fall off this much, to be honest. I mean, he and Seko are the two strongest runners in this race, the two men with the most strength. I think Rob may be having perhaps a bad day a little bit. Certainly Seko is running his usual race, right under control and never taking the lead.
Bill, I know that Charlie Spedding, 396, trains in Boston with you. Could he win this thing?
Yet Charlie has been in Boston. He's been training in the area for a month or two. You know, it's an interesting thing. The British, the Japanese, and the Australians have never had one of their countrymen win an Olympic gold medal. So if one of these men can take it for their country, I think it'll be a fantastic, prestigious, it'll be a spectacular achievement.
That's the man we're looking at right now, Spedding of Great Britain. About 5 miles to go now in the men's marathon.
How long was that off?
2 seconds.
Oh. When I stretched.
What did you say about Spedding?
Yeah. You can't hear any of this that he says?
Was DeCastella moving up, or was that...
I think DeCastella's out of it.
He would never do that.
No, yeah, there was a point there when we were behind him when it looked like he was starting to pick it up again.
Yeah. There he is. You can see his shadow. He's very recognizable.
They took the pace up 8 seconds.
And he lost about 8 seconds, so... Yeah.
He's got him out of charge now. Seko will kill him in the kick.
Yeah, he's getting back.
How about Lopes, though?
Lopes.
Tracy's
Lopes. Tracey.
He's looked bad for 5 miles, though. I didn't want to commit myself on it. That's right.
He's gone, right?
Is he there?
Yeah.
Minute and a half back.
Okay, let's get into some great stuff to say. What can I say?
That's Enzo. There he is. Okay.
Salazar's minute 26 back.
Seko is right. Yeah, there he is.
7 minutes.
So we got what do we have? A pack of 7.
Al, Salazar's minute 26 back.
126. Okay. Okay.
That's 23 seconds up.
Right. That's correct. Yeah, we're checking it out right now too.
Takashiki So, who his brother is really the better one, right?
We talked about him.
Huh?
Getting back to it.
Yeah. Well,
What do you got for Barry? What do you got for Salazar?
Somebody's right ahead of
A minute what? 126. Are they at 22 yet? Okay.
45.
26 back.
He lost 23 seconds that mile.
Okay.
who, Salazar?
126 back, 103.
Seko starts to lag.
Look at Seko. 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe they're surging. Let's try and get a good
Okay, so
split
we've got
coming
Seko
up.
going back,
21
and here's
was
our pack of
457.
six right
They didn't
here,
reach
right?
22 yet, did they?
That's our pack of six. We got Ikanga, Lopes, Spedding, Tracey, So, and Inzel. Okay.
Wow, that's Seko way back there.
Yep, okay. Bit of a dramatic development. While we were in that commercial, that is Seko who has dropped back from the pack, and DeCastella is not in that pack either. As those other six begin to move away, you have in that pack of six, Joseph Enzel, Takeshi So, John Tracey, Charlie Spedding, Carlos Lopes, and Yuma Ikanga. And there is Seko. We saw DeCastella drop back, and he has dropped further back. There is Seko dropping back. Salazar is a minute and a half behind. We may have a very big upset here in the marathon.
Boy, but he does not look too upset himself. DeCastella is behind him. I think part of the reason they dropped back, they ran a 4:57 the last mile, and they may be gambling that these surges are starting, and that they're going to that DeCastella and Seko still want to run an even pace in, but it's very late in the race to try to do that. For instance, if Charlie Spedding can open up 100 yards or so, even if Seko works his way back up to be able to sprint with him at the last half mile or so, Seko would have used so much energy making up that gap in such a short period of time, then Spedding could again go once more and perhaps win it. So Carlos Lopes right now would be heavily favored. The amazing thing, and I've been hesitating to mention it, is John Tracey from Ireland, 4:71. He's running his first marathon ever. And he is, as you can see, not the most beautiful runner in the world, but he is one of the toughest men in the world. Very tough trainer, has had a lot of adversity. However, I'm worried about him in this heat because in the Olympics in 1980, in the 10,000 meters, he was running along fine, and on the last lap he just collapsed, but he came back a few days later in the 5,000 and finished 7th. So there is a tremendous surprise.
Marty, they have splintered even further now, as you can see. You've got a four-man pack, and you also had that last mile run in 4:47. Charlie Spedding, then you've got Joseph Enzel of Kenya, John Tracey of Ireland, Carlos Lopes of Portugal, and the men who have dropped back within the last 30 to 40 seconds are Ikanga of Tanzania and So of Japan. They've completed 22 miles. As we say, that last mile in 4:47, the average pace is 4:58, about 4 miles to go now.
Well, they've really run a fast mile, and there's the battle. Those two men have been thinking about each other for almost 4 years, and they are quite back. But I think I would make a prediction that right now, that of the 4 men in the first pack, only one of them will get a medal.
And that man will be?
I can't tell you that.
All right, it's Enzel, Lopes, Tracey, and Spedding, the group of 4. With 4 miles to go, heading down Exposition Boulevard. We climb out in about 8 minutes before 7 o'clock. So they're maybe 18, 19 minutes away from entering the Los Angeles Coliseum. Number 723, 37-year-old Carlos Lopes of Portugal.
And what an amazing story he is. He won the World Cross Country Championships held at the Meadowlands in New Jersey this year at the age of 37 years. And he was injured after the last Olympics, had some operations on his Achilles tendon, but the Portuguese in this Olympics have been running very well. Mamade of Portugal broke the world record in the 10,000 meter earlier in the month, but didn't run well in the final of the 10,000 meters here. So they obviously know what they're doing. They've got some great coaching, and their country has gotten behind their distance runners for the last 4 years. Tracey and Charlie Spedding, no strangers to each other. It was thought that the Western Europeans would not be big factors in this race. Most of the marathoning talent coming from Africa, the United States, Japan, and of course DeCastella of Australia. So the English and the Irish may have a great race shaping up after a disaster in 1980 for the British when none of their men even finished the race.
That's Tracey on the right. That's Lopes on the left of your screen. Bill Rogers, can you hear me? Yes. Bill, at least looking at the monitor, Lopes looks like he's in terrific shape at this point in the race. What do you think?
If I would say the gold is going to go to Lopes, he has kind of a maniacal look on his face. He looks like he's feeling a lot of strain, yet his form hasn't broken, but his face shows strain. He's been running kind of quietly, deceptively off to the side. Obviously, this is a gigantic, major upset. The gold medal is not going to one of the major favorites. I don't think Seko or DeCastella or Alberto has any chance to make a comeback at this time. The 3 medals, it's breaking down further. You can see that Joe Nassau is falling off the pace. And it's going to be tough to come on strong at the end under these warm weather conditions.
Bill, do you think from your vantage point that Seko and DeCastella are totally out of it for the medals?
I think they're out of it.
They appear to be out of it. Look at that shot. We can see the rest of the field lagging. Nobody seems to be...
There's only 5 kilometers left.
Right? We can
That's 3 miles, and you've got to remember that Carlos Lopes has one of the fastest 10,000-meter times in the world. He's a world cross-country champion, a very experienced runner, a lot of strength. Yet, this is a surprise. Only his 3rd marathon. I don't know. What can I say?
He's been in 3 marathons to this point. He's only finished one of them. That was the Rotterdam Marathon when DeCastella won it.
Tremendous competitor.
So there is Lopes, number 723, 3 miles to go. Very shortly, they'll be making a right turn, move down Menlo Avenue, and go into the Coliseum. And at the announced position in the Coliseum, there to cover the closing ceremonies, is Jim McKay. Jim?
Al, the mood here right now, of course, is one of tremendous anticipation. They've just introduced medalists from previous marathons. Everybody's been watching the race up on the big TV screens that they have here in the stadium. They know what's going on, have a pretty good idea. They'll be getting the split times. Also, of course, there is the mood that there was before the opening ceremony. They're waiting for a ceremony. It's later in the day. The shadows have already begun to fall across the stadium. But all in all, it's a tremendous mood of anticipation. We feel the same here, and it won't be long now, will it?
No, and remember that scene, of course, the other day when Joan Benoit came in. Everybody knew at that point that Joan had built up a tremendous
people, more
lead.
than 90,000, with all the people not paying, probably close to 100,000. Awaiting the arrival of the winner of the marathon in Los Angeles.
No direction.
438 miles?
Fastest of the race.
Was I on? Karen, you know that. Was I thought Jim had stopped and I started to talk. Okay, fine, because I started to talk and I could hear myself back, so. Okay.
It's something important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, here it is. Come back here.
Games of the 23rd Olympiad. Brought to you by Chevrolet, with the performance, the style, the innovation, the quality, and the value that make up today's Chevrolet. Light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. Transamerica, for insurance, manufacturing, and transportation, the power of the pyramid is working for you. And Kmart, from quality merchandise to low prices. We've got it and we've got it good.
You're observing the final event of the Olympics, and it's Carlos Lopes, number 723, who has the lead. Charlie Spedding of Great Britain and John Tracey are trailing him. Tracey from Ireland, where I guess it's about, it has to be 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 or 9 hours time difference, and Ireland may be on the verge of winning its first medal in these Olympic Games. But this has become a shocking situation because DeCastella has dropped back. Seko, who was looking so good, has dropped back. Salazar is out of it, and people who cover and follow this sport very closely made any number of excuses as you look at Joseph Enzao of Kenya why Lopes couldn't win this. They talked about his age, he's 37. They talked about the heat. Well, it's hot today, but not as hot as some people expected. Smog, well, there's been relatively little of it today. They talked about pace. They talked about his lack of marathon experience. They talked about all those things, but there he is, number 723, some 2 miles from the finish right now with an 8-second lead, having turned the last mile in 4:41 as they pass the 24-mile mark.
Well, I think we're seeing at least 2 very unique individuals. Lopes, I think the oldest man in the field, and he will probably be the oldest man ever to win the marathon in the Olympics, and his story is one of wonder. His running over the past 2 years has just been amazing to everyone, especially runners who are 35 and 36 years old, as Bill Rogers and myself. And then John Tracey, this is just something you couldn't predict. This is his first marathon. He's an Irish runner. I went to school at Villanova. We had numerous Irish runners. They always had problems running in the heat. He has battled those odds. I know he battled odds when he came back from an injury a couple of years ago, and that is one amazing athlete. And Bill, maybe you can just enlighten us how you think Charlie Spedding has managed to put all of this together today. Did Bill Rogers hear us?
This is a surprise, obviously, with 3 men with, 5 marathons between them, and it looks like they're going to take the gold, silver, and bronze. Any of the favorites have about 8 to 10 marathons, and the form charts are being really knocked off the loop. The only thing I can say is I believe Carlos
DeCastella is now 200 yards behind.
Lopes has a lead of about 90 meters, I would estimate. He looks very strong still.
Last report has Salazar some 2.5 minutes behind. Carlos Lopes interviewed recently talking about running in the marathon, and he said, well, I just look at it as a tune-up for next year's cross-country world championships.
Oh.
He's not looking at it like that right now.
That's right. At 37 years old, I kind of feel sorry for him because he won the world championships at 37 last year, and now next year they're going to be in his own home city, and the pressure there is going to be so great. And at 38 years old, to have that pressure and have to pull off probably the feat of the decade twice, and now he's going to have to do it for a 3rd time in a row.
Lopes, the leader. He's the man who won the silver in Montreal at 10,000 meters in '76. 8 years later, he's on his way to the gold.
We believe we're about 6 minutes away from the athletes entering the stadium. We're told this is only the 3rd marathon.
Let's see, what do we say?
Carlos Lopes.
You know, he was in the marathon in '76, DNF.
Spedding of Great Britain.
DNF Rotterdam.
And this is the first marathon.
Right, yeah. He's Bill refers to 2, but I guess he forgot, right, he didn't know about, yeah. Okay, right. No.
I'm just wondering where some up there together.
Yeah, they're together the whole class is 10 miles.
Who's in Enzao still 4th, as far as we know?
Yeah, the last group was.
Okay.
Sal? Yeah.
They have,
Tell Lampley he needs an interpreter if he's doing the interview. He does? Jim,
Donaway, you think Lopes speaks
Sorry,
any
Rotterdam.
English?
Didn't I finish?
Enough to do an
84
interview?
Rotterdam Marathon?
Yeah?
Was there a
Okay, you might be able to do it in English.
Not a lot. Was it David Higdon on for the factory? He had interpreters for World Cross Championships.
Yeah.
I think he understood. Yeah, he should have.
Before that, here you go. New York, 83 Rotterdam, 84 Rotterdam, April 14th. He was a DNF. Look at him. DNF 18 miles. Yeah, good, yeah. 19, yeah.
What?
Okay. Okay. Right, okay. Okay.
Projected time 2:09:30.
Tell Bill, by the way, even though most people think he's only run 2, he's run 3 marathons, and I'll cover him, because we've been saying he's only run 2.
No, Bill said that. We've been saying he's run
right,
3.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's why I want Bill to know that, because, you know, it's an important point. Carlos Lopes of Portugal is on an Olympic record pace. He's 37 years old. He'll become the world's greatest middle-aged hero if he's able to cross the finish line the way it looks right now for the gold, with Spedding and Tracey side by side in what shapes up to be a great battle for the silver at the moment. Lopes is a man who, in April of this year in Rotterdam, ran in a marathon, and there is all the way back in the pack Salazar of the United States, who is 2.5 minutes behind the leader. Carlos Lopes earlier this year, Rotterdam Marathon, April, dropped out, exhausted by the heat, by the pace after 18 miles, but looking very, very fresh. Off Exposition Boulevard, down Menlo Avenue as he approaches the Coliseum. And again, if you saw the women's marathon, he will go from Menlo Avenue, make a left-hand turn into that Coliseum tunnel, and then emerge in front of a huge crowd. He will pass the finish line one time on the outside, then cut to the inside, run another 400 meters, and take home the gold. He was looking over his shoulder, and he knows he's in great shape right now. Spedding 396, Tracey 471, turning on to Menlo Avenue.
Well, they're all looking back now because they know the positions aren't going to change too much, but I think in John Tracey's mind and Charlie Spedding's mind, they're deciding now how are they going to win the silver medal, because for Tracey, if he takes it and picks up the pace and tries to break Spedding, he wants to be sure that there's no one in 4th place close behind, so that if his effort fails and leaves him shattered and exhausted, that he won't get picked off in that last half mile. So you saw John Tracey checking behind him to know how hard he can push, or whether he should be more conservative and just run for a medal. It's got to be a great feeling for Spedding and Tracey as they turn around and see that there's no one within striking distance, and Lopes has looked back. He's got 26-second lead, so he is in good shape and running a very great race, a courageous race, one in which he could have gambled, especially with Tracey and Charlie Spedding. He could have gambled and waited until they got into the stadium and just tried to pass them then.
Carlos Lopes ready to enter the tunnel. He's 5'6", 126 pounds. He is a loan officer in a bank in Lisbon. He may own the bank tomorrow. Into the darkness, and then back into the twilight he'll go. The crowd in the Coliseum will sense it. The tunnel is lighting his way, and in just moments he will emerge. And 90,000 plus will salute him. That's the scene in the Coliseum.
And there's Tracey, as I alluded to earlier. He's decided to make the move and go for the silver medal. He may not make it. He may break down, but he knows he can get the silver or the bronze, and has decided to take the chance and go after the silver medal, which will be Ireland's first medal in these games.
A salute to Lopes.
And here's a minor upset back in the pack, that Seko will not be the first Japanese to finish. And Fitzinger of the United States has passed Alberto Salazar.
Here they come. The battle for the silver. Tracey and Spedding into the Coliseum on the outside. But down the back straightaway with about a 300-meter lead, Carlos Lopes of Portugal. At the Summer Olympics. After 26 miles, 385 yards, he has set a new Olympic record as well. 2 hours, 9 minutes, 22 seconds, and it appears the silver will be going to John Tracey. It will be Ireland's first medal in these Olympic Games, with Charlie Spedding of Great Britain taking home the bronze.
John Tracey, his first marathon, a tribute to all the marathon runners who did not have success early on in life.
So DeCastella faded. Salazar faded. Seko, who looks so good, faded. And that's the way it wound up in a shocking upset in the men's marathon. Lopes, Tracey, and Spedding, a new Olympic record. The victory lap. And there is Takeshi So of Japan heading toward the finish line. He'll be fourth.
With the pressures of the favorite's role, and there was the man he expected to be finishing with on the track, Ikanga of Tanzania, but they didn't expect to be that far back.
DeCastella dropping back about 20 or 25 miles, 20 miles into the race. Enzow now finishing, but the winner is Lopes of Portugal.
Does it give the winner? This is the winning. This is the winner, the Canadian girl. Okay. Do you get the winner in it?
Suicide.
Subaraya.
Okay.
209.24.
To get a car. 209.26.
26. Okay.
No. You can't understand me.
Live at the Coliseum, having just entered, man in gray, number 932, is Pete Pitzinger, who finished first in the Olympic trials 11 weeks ago, and he'll be the first American to come across the line, having passed Salazar. We'll have to go for him.
Pitzinger, who was the winner of our trials with a great rush over Salazar.
There is Salazar.
And the marathon, once again, humbles all of the favorites, really.
Well, I mentioned before, it was shocking the last couple of days on that Coliseum track as you watch Pitzinger. head around the turn to complete the marathon. The first several days of the track and field competition going pretty much according to form, and then the upset started to take shape. You had McKay losing and Babers winning instead at 400. You had the great Decker and Bud confrontation that was won by Kuika amidst the controversy. You had Stones and Zhu in the high jump last night, and only a bronze between them. And then in this one, who in the world could have figured it would be Lopes, Tracey, and Spedding? Big hand for Pitzinger, Pete Pitzinger, crossing the finish line from West Newton, Massachusetts, graduate of Cornell.
I think, as you mentioned, Al, as the Olympics go on, we start to see more upsets, and I think that's a reflection of the atmosphere the athletes have to live under with the Olympic Games. That village is like to be painted as an idealistic place where people of all nations come together, but they do all come together and get nervous together.
Beautiful aerial view of the Coliseum set up for an impressive closing ceremony. They moved the start time of the marathon up several minutes to enable all of the finishers to have their moment of glory, so to speak, at least be able to finish a long, arduous task in front of a capacity crowd. Pitzinger winds up in 9th position. You saw Salazar cross the line 11th, and Tuttle, the other American, is still out on the street.
Well, it's a tough race for the Americans, and I think, as Bill mentioned, we're going to have to really reevaluate the system for picking our marathoners. Now, I think we have to differentiate between picking the men's and women's Olympic track team and picking the marathon team. It's come to the point where we have to realize that the marathon is almost like a different sport, and the athletes cannot be expected to run a marathon and then come back 12 weeks later and compete against the best that the world has to offer.
Salah Ahmed of Djibouti, one of those coming across the line. Remember, he was among the leaders very early on, number 204. But the winner is Carlos Lopes, and let's go to Jim Lampley at the Coliseum. Jim?
Back on the floor of the Coliseum, now I am standing with two Americans who have finished, Alberto Salazar and Pete Pitzinger. Thank you very much, both, for coming to speak to us. Alberto, you tried to keep contact with the lead pack. At about the halfway point, you were 43 seconds behind, and it was my understanding from Marty LaFoy that you had said you would be willing to be as much as a minute behind at that point. What was your race plan, and what stood in the way of its success?
Well, I thought the 2:10 would win the race, and not too much faster than that ended up winning the race. So I felt that to go any faster than that pace would be suicidal. And so I just was going to try and go out there and try and run 5-minute miles as long as I could. And if I was able to, hopefully I'd be able to pick it up a little bit in the end. But unfortunately, I slowed down even from that 5-minute pace.
You adopted various special training techniques to try to combat the heat. In retrospect, do you think they worked?
Well, I guess not. You know, I've never really run a good race in the heat, a good marathon, so even with the heat training, maybe it's just not meant for me to run well in the heat, but I don't know, there'll be more races. I'll just have to try and train a little better next time.
You can't win all the time. Are you satisfied with the race that you ran?
Well, I'm satisfied that I did the best I could today. You know, I'm disappointed in that I couldn't do as good as the U.S. fans wanted us to do, and they were really supportive on the whole course there, even though I was way back. They just went crazy every time we went by, and you know, I just want to say thanks to everyone in the U.S. that gave us the support, and hope next time we'll be able to represent them a little better.
Thanks to you for coming to speak to us. Pete Pitzinger, unless I miss my guess, I never saw you really in contact with the lead group. Was that an error on your part? You wound up 11th, or did you plan to be closer to them?
I wanted to be closer to the lead group, but I just didn't feel very good until I got onto the freeway. It was supposed to go the other way around. People said that on the freeway would be where we started feeling bad, but my stomach just wasn't right. I don't know if I swallowed some water wrong or what early on. John Tuttle and I ran together to about 10 miles. Then it was really on the freeway where I started to click.
Okay. Was it the heat?
You know, I ran well through the finish. It was just, I wasn't having a very good day until halfway.
that happens. Alberto spoke about the crowds along the way. Bill Rogers said that he believed it was the largest crowd along the course he'd ever seen for a marathon. What was the experience like running this race?
It was unbelievable. I've never run a really big marathon with big crowds. I've never run Boston or New York or Chicago before, so I've never experienced anything like it. People were just screaming the entire way, and as I'd be catching somebody, they'd look back to see what all the commotion was about. I felt like I was the first woman in a major marathon. You know, I wasn't in the lead, but everybody's screaming for me.
This was a big step for you this year, winning the American trials and coming here with more notoriety than you might have expected to. Did it change your psychological outlook on the race and the way other runners treated you to have gained that respect coming here?
Well, I think people are still trying to figure out who Pete Pfitzinger is, and I think today was a step in the right direction to establish myself. I feel I still have a good way to improve. I felt that today I just had to run a very good effort, make sure I didn't, blow up in the heat, and that would help to establish credibility on my part.
You'll shoot for Seoul in 1988?
Definitely.
All right, Pete. Congratulations on a good finish, and thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Jim.
Back to you, Alan.
All right, thank you, Jim. Overhead view of the Coliseum. It's full. The very impressive closing ceremonies to come up. Another look there at the final standings, and Pfitzinger wound up 11th. Salazar finished 5th.